Testicles. So we're starting out on the account, and we have a lot of progress that we're going to be making in these episodes that are following. As we can see, I've got quite a bit of chunks that we're currently working towards. Here we see that we're still quite a bit away from the gnome village, but overall it's really not too bad, and we've gotten a lot of tiles towards our next few goals. We see that we may have screwed up here originally with needing 3 to actually get into Varrock, so instead we're going to be going up north and then west towards Valley. Hopefully we can actually get some of our unlocks to get towards the Mining Guild and Motherlode Mine. Ultimately, our goal here is going to be to try and eventually get everything we need with either iron or mithril bars, and hopefully we can progress enough to get towards Giant Foundry, which, if we can, allows us to get the Colossal Blade. Now, here we see that we've got everything we need in our desert region for some a little quick tasks, and then making our way towards Foundry, hopefully within the next week or so. Ultimately, we have a lot in terms of what we'll need to do. We need to secure tiles as well as a couple of our account goals, but overall, we're in a really good spot towards eventually getting up north and maybe getting our way towards Varrock. So here we see quite a bit in terms of what we have, and we have to get crafting for this next chunk. So a primary goal after we throw a knife at somebody's back and run away is going to be to get towards about 20 crafting. And then from here, we can see that what I've done is actually worked on a bit of a unique method for bowstrings, since we don't have flax in our regions, and the closest we can probably get is going to be Land's End. Once we start killing cows and we show off our cool new beekeeper drip, we're able to slowly work towards 20 crafting by knifing and knifing and knifing and, walk away, then knife. And as you could see, with a great, an item, we've unlocked our crossbow strings and our training method for crafting for the next 15-ish levels. Balls of Wool only give 2.5, which is the only other real method for crafting, so what we'll do is we will show off a bit of a grimy method, which I don't think I've ever seen. We can use cooked beef with the range and get sinew. From here, when we cook the sinew, we're able to then go upstairs from the current chunk, and we should be able to make crossbow strings. Now, we've already done this for quite a bit, so we actually did get to our crafting level. One of our chunk tasks was to cut an emerald. Now, normally, completing certain things, like the Misslin Mystery quest, does allow for us to get some gems. We had gems that were available from the quest, as well as from some random events. However, if we go over to Lumbridge, we can actually see that on our map, when we go just a little bit east, we have the gem trader, which is... I just stumbled into the most depressing thing I've done in a long time. I killed goblins to get 10 gold to get into this trunk. And then I needed gold in order to buy items for the fake beard and headpiece. And then I ran out of tiles and options for gold. Oh, no. That's so depressing. Okay, so we're going to kind of speed run through a little bit of this explanation. I was going through the recording. I'm still stuck in my desert hellscape, and unfortunately, I realized that I still have to complete the task for the feud, which will be one of my final actual chunk tasks for this. In this particular instance, it was pretty easy. We were able to kill a man because we wanted to. After that point, we stole all of his money, 3 coins, max, woo-woo. After that, we were able to buy the other half of the Desert Disguise, and we were able to make a pretty sick beard. We went through realizing that the trunk went way faster than we anticipated, and that maybe our life decisions aren't all so bad, but they probably are. We decided that we had to do a couple of penalties because unfortunately we couldn't get anyone to agree to the Glaufrey did nothing wrong, because of course we couldn't. Also, we did have a Dr. Pepper, not realizing that it had caffeine in it because we were a little bit too off the devil's lettuce at the time of recording. Finally, we had to do another penalty because my combat level was still not as high as my woodcutting. Overall, this means that we still had to do 3 penalties. However, we wanted to make sure that they were harder. So in this case, I added some physical challenges and some additional updates to the wheel to make sure that I was fully able to punish myself because God won't in a timely manner. It's our next manual chunk pick, so we're going to be going west in towards Falador, hopefully getting into the Motherlode Mine and the Mining Guild as soon as we can. So here I spent a little bit too much time just basically ogling the Colossal Blade, looking at what could be if only I had chosen the right steps in life. It's going to be very notable that this is going to be a huge upgrade to our count, not only from a role playing perspective, being a very big gun for my little boy, but it'll also allow for us to deal some very big damage to our little, well, big bosses. All right, we have our next chunk, and we are going to calculate our next tasks. And let's go. We're in big girl mode. As they always say, mo tiles.
More problems.
So we're spinning and we're getting on twerking and working, which is 1 minute of wall sits per tile unlocked in this chunk. Not great. So we're rolling for our second punishment, and as we can see, we get. Oh no. Okay, so this one's pretty fun. All we have to do is just destroy all our best in slot gear and hope that we never get this later on once we go into hardcore mode and once we start getting good things. We then also have to reobtain those gear items if possible, or where applicable for our chunk. So we've got our final spin, and besides working out, we are going to. No, 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 no. Okay, we're going to try and play the game entirely in a different language. So here's my entirely unedited Neil Breen film review for Fateful Findings. So basically, what we found over the course of a little bit of testing is that Old School RuneScape is only available in English as of the current time of writing. So we have to respin, and we tried a couple different things. I couldn't get the translator to work because it requires a Google APK from a not open source code and a couple other things that just didn't seem to function for me. So unfortunately, we got pranked by myself, and we're going to go ahead and spin another one just to see what we get. So we're going to spin again, and in the process of spinning, oh no. So You know, this is now that I'm doing voiceover, and this is real gnome experience, which essentially is I have to world hop as soon as I see anyone, which unfortunately means that for combat training, I'm going to stop combat immediately, and then I have to run away from aggro and world hop. So, not the best. Okay, as you can see, we are back in Lumbridge. We have our new chunk punishments. We are going to have to get rid of all of our best in slot. We have to get rid of all of our gear for any kind of ammo, runes, or charge items. And then we are going to have to reacquire any of our best in slot, as well as essentially reforge or make a couple things like the bronze knives, which we didn't have a huge stack of, so it wasn't the worst outcome, but still a little bit punishing since we were wanting to level our ranged as well as our magic. Overall, not too bad. We're going to go over to Bob's because this is going to be the first step to getting our best in slot again. And then we're going to have a bit of a micro drop party. Now, we basically just wait here for a little bit, make sure that we've got everything that we need. Once everything is going to expire, we are going to then start into our account with progress. We see a little bit of our rules change, and we debate going into hardcore. I think I'm going to do so in a little bit of time. I think what I want to do is at least get 2 weeks into the account, and then we'll be switching to hardcore, because this is going to really be something that we need to slowly work at. The hardcore that Limproot did is so good because it has so many progressions and so many grinds that are just insane for the average player. We're going to start making our way over towards the Drainer Village chunk that we have, or the northern part of it, because we do have to get Vampire Slayer done, and we have to do a little bit more for X marks the spot for our tasks. The rest of it was pretty easy, so we see that we're actually going to be running pretty low on tiles. We are about 30 or 40 away from actually getting into a good start for this, so we are going to have to go back and immediately grind for this in any way that we can, since our adventure mode is going to be something that locks us out after we kill this man for his cape. We are going to have to go back into the swamps and spend quite a bit of time just grinding our melees to get to 69, since that's what our woodcutting account is. So we see here we have the black cape, which will be best in slot cape for quite a bit of time until we can either get an obby or something. We do a mime, and I promise I know what emotions are because I am not a robot. Probably. We hop over to the Lumbridge Swamp, and some very nice, kind, random stranger who has a maxed account helps me mine the rock, and I stay stationary for about 60 minutes so that it gets down to tier 3. The random stranger decides to pop the rock cherry, and we can see that I'm now able to mine it. So after we finished mining, we went ahead and went over to our main base where we're going to be cooking some more food. We are going to be following the rules. You'll see that we are going to have to hop a little bit under 100 times over the course of this entire chunk between training and going through our combat methods to what is apparently a very crowded spot with the giant and big frogs in the Lumbridge swamps. Over the course of this, it wasn't too bad, but it did quickly become evident that even with a minor window to complete skilling actions, as soon as anybody running by causes me to hop, I am going to struggle to do certain things depending on the situation. Ultimately, this culminates in me having to run north or having to flee from combat the second I see somebody or see anything white on my minimap, and then eventually hop after the 10-second buffer, only to then go back to do combat. Sometimes this allows for some decent windows, and other times this is an immediate stop of any training and can severely reduce the experience that I get per hour. Hopping just to use the bank, and overall just enduring with our minor inconveniences as they stack up with our punishment wheel. Back in Lumberage Swamps, killing more frogs, trying to go through, we get another random event. This is amazing because it can roll us some actually really good gear for our current levels. Previously, we had a Mithril Scimitar, and over the course of completing the event, we are going to see that we get absolutely screwed. So at this point, about an hour later, we get another random event, being the mystery quiz, and we are very excited because, as we previously mentioned, the boxes we can get from this may have very interesting rewards or may be very rarely empty in the event that we hit a clue scroll on drop rate. So here we can see that everything is going just as anticipated, and just as my luck, no. Sorry. And we see that I killed that boy so hard that I became a better Christian. But we have made a couple of quick discoveries when looking at the account. Last chunk, task, and penalty wheel, I had to throw away my Mithril Scimitar, and when we look at the comparison on rates for DPS, we see that having to switch back to the Mithril Battle Axe from that roll actually dropped us down significantly. Our current DPS is a little bit over 1, where it used to be 1.5, so we've essentially neutered ourselves by quite a bit just by having to switch to the Battle Axe, because it has the 3.6 second attack speed versus the 2.4. Even though we have a max hit that is of course higher with a higher strength bonus, we're losing out on a lot. In fact, even just by punching, we're nearly at the same DPS. Now, there are options, and there's actually quite a few chunks that can get us the Mithril Spear, which would be a great upgrade from the Battle Axe in the event that we don't roll over to the Alcarid, with the options to get not only gear upgrades for adamant leg slots, but also the scimitar, and then some great options for things like crafting, and just some general access to things like an anvil, forge, and then the bank. So here we're wanting to make sure that no matter what we roll, we do have some options for us when it comes to training and best in slot gear. We've gone ahead and made a couple of discoveries that were really impactful for if we do get into future content. For the time being, we were pretty much just surviving off of rat meat that we had cooked in the swamps. And we were able to break the adventure mode rule that we had, or the limitation, because we currently had 69 woodcutting, and unfortunately the biggest issue was that we didn't have 69 combat. But after we went through a little bit under 6,000 frogs, giant rats, and big frog kills, we were able to get everything in touch in order to make sure that we have the necessary skills. Overlooking at our bank, we don't have too much in terms of development. We still have some bronze knives that we've made, and then as you can see for our best in slot, we did upgrade to a bronze titty guard and panties in order to make sure that the frogs will not be dealing as much as they can to us in previous recordings. I made some additional bronze knives to level up, and I think that these will be great for a start when it comes to range, because unless we can actually roll into something or have a more reliable kill count for things like either man or guards, getting ammo, even if it's just going to be bronze arrows and bolts, is going to be a little bit difficult. Hopefully, when we look into our regions, we have some options towards Falador, as we do definitely want to unlock Motherlode Mine to start working towards the Colossal Blade. I did include in my DPS calculator the Colossal Blade because the whole point of this account, and in previous recordings we've decided that we are wanting to make a essentially giant hunter account, or one that is fighting enemies which are 2x2 or higher. The Colossal Blade having the special passive effect will allow for a higher overall DPS, not only engaged with things like giant frogs, but even if I'm just fighting regular mobs. This does still have the 3.6-second attack speed, which is the same 6 tick as the Battle Axe, but here you could see a marked improvement over twice the amount. Obviously that's because the melee strength when we look at the Colossal Blade is 100, which is insane compared to things like the Battle Axe, which is just 29, or the Scimitar, which is 20. Now, we're going into a really good point in the account because all of the combat grinding has given us a lot of tiles to go through. You may remember that the punishment that we're currently set is to complete with our set of tiles a wall sit for every minute that we do a tile unlock in our regions. We have 2 tasks that are still relevant, and so we do have to get Vampire Slayer Part 1 done, as well as X marks the spot. I know for a fact that X marks usually involves the spade, so we are just going to grab it from the bank. And then I believe that Vampire Slayer doesn't have any item requirements to start out, because the first part of the stage 1 is just going to be to talk to and to actually start the quest. When we confirm that... Yes, we will eventually need to get garlic, but the garlic's actually in Morgan's house, which I believe is in a chunk that we do not have. Since we're already going to be in Lumbridge, we can run through and get towards that, but because I know that it's close for most of it, we're going to continue on X marks the spot, and the next one is to dig behind the castle. Unfortunately, this will be about 6 or 7 tiles that we are going to... Actually, that's not too bad, just 2. So let's go ahead and we can dig here. I believe we find the orb, which we can later use for a couple of things. And then the Drainer Village wheat field, which is be right outside of our tiles or right in. It's a little bit hard to tell, but given that is actually marked here, I think this will be considered the 3rd step. So we definitely want to make sure that we could do this if it is in our region. And then also we will grab the Vampire Slayer while we're here. There's not really a good way, as far as I know, outside of marking them manually. So I think the easiest thing for us to do is just going to be to actually count the tiles and make sure that once we get there, we are able to calculate how many minutes of wall sits. In order to make sure that I am not going to be blasting myself with the swole sauce, I think I'm going to be spacing it out so that each day I'm dividing it and doing it over the course of a week, which will still meet into the definition to probably avoid a penalty wheel. We have had to teleport and hop a lot. I think we actually missed one. I have to go check the recording on this now because I'm not 100% sure. I've been trying to be extra vigilant, and when we were in the swamps, usually what would happen is we'd have to run if anyone ever approached us, and then we would have to hop because we were constantly in combat. So we'd have to exit combat and then wait the 10 seconds required to actually do the hop. So the new chunk officially starts right after potatoes, meaning I have to be extra judicious here. I can speak, I promise. Extra judicious. Okay. So I think what we can do to calculate here, let's go ahead and open up Region Locker, and then we'll unlock and lock this again, which will be the easiest way to calculate. Actually, it's right here on this bridge border. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 1, 2, 33, 34. Oh my god, I'm going to be sitting on this wall like it owes me money. Okay, so 34, 35? Let's just round to 35. I was making a joke and lost count. Oh god, okay. 36, 37, 38, 39, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 51, 2, 3, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60. I could have gone diagonally. 61, 62, 63, 64. Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay. So 64 so far. And now we can mark EU and then do Vampire Slayer. I think she's like right here, right? Is it Morgan we talked to? Oh my goodness. Okay. Vampire Slayer. Okay. It is you. Okay, so we're at 64 probably. 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70. Nice. 1, 72, 73, 74, 75. Oh no, vampires are scary. Sorry. Minor panic. Okay. We have to grab the garlic. I can't just cheat the account like that. 76, 77. Oh, you're so far away. 78, 79, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86. And we got the garlic. Okay. So 86. Let's just round it up to 90 minutes. We'll do an hour and a half while it sits. That seems like that would meet every definition. And thankfully, that is chunk task. Okay, this is fine. So I just found out that being paid in exposure has absolutely nothing to do with showing your beehole to people. And I am so sorry.